Back in March, the state capitol was closed due to the pandemic. Business continued, but on a dramatically reduced level.
January marks the opening of the 2021 session. How will lawmakers conduct the people's business? Joining us, Speaker of the House-elect, Democrat Matt Ritter of Hartford, and Senate Republican leader Kevin Kelly of Stratford. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having me.
Mr. Speaker-elect, could you start by telling us, we've heard that the opening day, January 6th, may be the ceremonies outside, but even more importantly, how do you see the rest of the session functioning, given that most people cannot go into the building?
Yeah, that's true. Opening day, will be sort of like a baseball game. We'll know the day of maybe, see what the weather looks like outside. But hopefully the weather will cooperate and we can do part of it outside for 10, 15 minutes. But as the session goes on, I think I really break it into two different quarters. I think the first quarter, which will run through the committee process, will have to be via Zoom, public hearings, unfortunately, because we'd like to have people in the building. We know that's an important component of the legislative process. What we're hopeful, though, is that as we get to April, May, and June, we have a late adjournment date this year. And what I'm hopeful is that we'll get to a point where people are vaccinated at a much higher percentage, maybe than we think today is possible by then, and we'll be able to let people back in the building. That would be a great goal for, say, mid-May or something like that.
Senator Kelly, the Connecticut legislature as it operates, is a pretty spontaneous place for an American legislative body, which can be a very good thing. How do you maintain that spontaneity in decision-making and in reaching legislators under these conditions?
Well, you're touching on a very important part, because fundamental to democracy is people's right to voice their opinion. And although you have Zoom, you lose a lot of the spontaneity. I was speaking before the AARP earlier this week, and one of the big things you see when you're in the building, whether they're for or against something, is red. They wear a red shirt, red hat, red tie. They're present. They're speaking. It's palpable. Zoom, you don't have that. You don't have that virtual collection area. And, that's just one aspect. The other aspect that I'm kind of surprised at is that, the majority wants to move forward, yet we know in many of the urban areas, kids were having trouble doing distance learning because they didn't have the technological capability to Zoom into their classroom. Well, the same thing holds here. There are a lot of communities, a lot of individuals who can't afford the technology, or if they do have it, they don't know how to become capable to Zoom in, as well as just the practical reality that there are areas in Connecticut that just don't have Wi-Fi. So are we now as a legislative body going to say that if you don't have Wi-Fi, you don't have a voice in government?
But is there an alternative?
We lose a lot of the spontaneity.
Right. Is there an alternative, though? I mean, there doesn't seem to be one, correct, Senator Kelly?
Well, first and foremost is the majority has given the governor the executive authority, at least through February 9th. By all accords, it seems like they're going to continue that. And we should really just be limited to things that are absolutely essential, like looking at the budget, but, make it narrow, make it, concise, so that we don't abridge these First Amendment rights that individuals have. I hear a laundry list of agenda items that they want to touch in on and weigh in on. But I think in this world, we have to be sensitive to the fact that not everyone can get to the Capitol via Zoom.
Speaker Ritter, you are going to be in your first term as Speaker, and there's a new majority leader and also a new minority leader in the House. How will that change, do you think, the priorities and the tenor of how the House conducts its business?
Yeah, and if I could just going back to that, because it's a good question. And at the end of the day, the rules are going to get adopted in the House with Republicans and Democrats voting in favor, I believe. And the joint rules, I think, will be bipartisan. All of our processes, the committees, the hearings, it's done in the joint rules. We've been negotiating those on a bipartisan basis. So no one should think the majority is dictating rules to anybody. That's been a collaborative process. And to your question, Kevin, first of all, Jason is fantastic. He's dynamic. He's going to be a wonderful majority leader. He's far more prepared, I think, than any recent majority leader in history, given his background as finance, chief of staff to the president of Trinity College, and having been Joyer Simmonds' right-hand person for 4 years. And then on top of that, Vinnie Candelora and I have a wonderful special relationship. We've worked very closely together going back to 2017 on that bipartisan budget. I consider him a very good friend. And so I think the House will work very well. And I'm really looking forward to working with Senator Kelly and obviously Senator Looney and Senator Duff as well.
Senator Kelly, if I can go back to what you said earlier, it sounds like there are things coming up, bills that you think should be put on pause. Can you mention which those are?
Well, we haven't had the opportunity, quite frankly, because of the LCO and just living in this virtual world to see all these bills. But you do hear, like in the special session, we had a bill to regulate hemp. We had a bill to increase, I'm going to say, marshal fees. And to me, those just aren't priorities given the circumstances at hand where we've got a broken economy. We're last in jobs, as you heard from a prior guest. We're last in job growth. We're last in personal income growth. We got to get the Connecticut economy back working for the people, the middle class, hardworking folks of Connecticut. And, you know, regulation of hemp and, quite frankly, marshal fees don't do that.
Yeah, I have to interject, though. The regulation of a hemp bill was to benefit rural farmers and agricultural farmers to comply with new federal guidelines. It was actually a bipartisan effort led by rural legislators. So for what that's worth, it passed unanimously from both chambers.
Last question, Speaker Ritter. You increased your majority in the November's election. You think, will that have any impact on your priorities and the sort of ideological leanings of your caucus?
Yeah, I mean, you know, quite frankly, our caucus is pretty similar. We're probably 50-50 if you wanted to weigh it in terms of, are you sort of this kind of Democrat or that kind of Democrat? We work very well together. We always have, and I'm confident of that. And let me also, I agree with Senator Kelly. We're not going to go and roll out 600 bills, right, that nobody's had a chance to weigh in on. Leadership is mindful of that. I'm very mindful of that. I take great pride in access to the Capitol. So we will look at things, but we also have to have a session at the same time.
And
that's all.
Senator Kelly, we're sorry we've run out of time. We look forward to having you come back.
Stay tuned for CBS Sunday Morning coming up next.